Josh, is our presentation still,
believe so, library? Is anybody here from the library? The library is who we were expecting, correct?
Yeah.
right, Adam?
I didn't
Yes.
remember. I didn't
I
get an
haven't
email
seen
from
him.
it.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Okay,
All right,
we are officially live. Let me just double check this to make, that's good. So, Mr. Mayor, at your convenience, and
All right.
apologize to everybody for the delay. So,
well, thank you. And we will now call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for Thursday, May 4th, 2023 at 6:08 PM. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
yeah, here.
Mrs. Franklin. Here. Ms. Fry. Here. Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Present.
Mayor Williams.
Here. No absent members. Mr. Manager, any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Mr. Denning to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If you would all please join me to rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph, go right ahead.
I would like to pause and enter into a moment of silence for the Rosales family. Obviously, this weekend was very difficult for them, losing or having Lucas being lost at Eastwood Lake. So if we could just have a moment of silence for that family. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Zach. It appears, Mr. Manager, that the planned presentation guest from the Dayton Metro Libraries is not with us yet. So we will see if maybe he gets here later, or maybe we can reschedule that.
Correct.
And then we will move into a very important item for today's meeting. In addition to being May 4th, which anybody watching can see that it's a big deal to some of the folks up here. It's also Clerks Week. And when it comes to municipal clerks, well, I think we got the best one. So for the 54th annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, the City of Riverside would like to make a proclamation that whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk is among the oldest public servants, and whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas the professional municipal clerk have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, now therefore, I, Peter J. Williams, Mayor of the City of Riverside, Ohio, do hereby recognize the week of April 30th through May 6th, 2023 as the Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Katie Llewellyn, and to all professional municipal clerks for their the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities that they represent. Signed under my hand on this seal, 4th of May, 2023, on behalf of the City Council. Katie, we can't say thank you enough for all the things you do for us behind the scenes and during meetings, and keeping things moving along and keeping us on track. So I certainly think this is a well-deserved recognition. And I would also recognize that the clerk of a neighboring community, Huber Heights, resides in our city, Tony Rogers, and he also serves on a board and commission for our city as a volunteer. So thank you, Katie. And I'll turn it over to anyone else who would like to recognize our Madam Clerk. Not everybody at once, please. All right, well then moving
Well,
on.
Well, she holds the office with the state organization and
Jesse would like to see.
I just, obviously, I know Pete said it all, but we really do appreciate everything you do. Obviously, these meetings could not run without you. Everything behind the scenes couldn't run without what you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you.
and you do represent the city well in many other facets. And your participation in other organizations, the state level, the county and the base. And for that, it makes us really good. And thanks.
All right. We will move on to the next portion of the agenda. We've all had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the April 13th council meeting and the April 20th work session. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as published?
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Ms. Franklin to approve the minutes as published. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We accept citizens petitions at different times during our meetings. If you would like to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, you can fill out a form found in the back of this room, the council chambers, and hand it in to our clerk up on the dais. We will move on to department updates, and I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll turn it over to Mr. Garrett and Ms. Baker in the Finance Department.
I'd just like to say, welcome back, Tom.
Welcome back. Well, thanks. That was the first thing I was going to say. It's good to be back, and I want to acknowledge, of course, the dedicated effort from Kim and Crystal in the Finance Department, keeping things going while I was away for a few weeks. So we did a lot of end-of-quarter reporting, including the annual report for our American Rescue Plan money. We have to every year report what we've spent of the allocation we received through the Rescue Plan Act, and as well as all of the other normal reports that we do get. Our income tax, in the month of April, we only got one distribution because they snuck the first one into the end of March. So that lifted up March's collections a little bit. And then, so April looks a little light, but the net effect, the cumulative effect up till now is we're just about back to our planned line for now. Actually just slightly below. But we anticipate, of course, in the month of May, we're going to probably get 3 distributions, so we'll probably about back up. So we're pretty much on track. Let's see. In addition to getting the income tax that we already got, we did get in the middle of April, got our real estate tax distribution from the county. So that's been collected and posted. Some of it's already been redistributed to end users. We have to get our money to Brentwood relatively soon. Also, we did get a pollution settlement from relating to Monsanto and PCB fouling of certain waterways. And we just fell into that because we are, consistent reporter for the pollution discharge fee reports that we do every year. So we came out on the list. There's some other local municipalities also got some. So we got a distribution from this Monsanto settlement in the amount of $17,000. So I guess that's most of, so it's been just a lot of ongoing activity. So,
Any questions for Tom? All right, well, thank you and welcome back. And back to the city manager.
And I'll actually handle admin, community development, and just a couple other things all in one go, if I may. And if, again, first at the top of all this, just to apologize to, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, to the viewing public that I know many folks rely and appreciate on the stream. As many folks know, we've had a series of technical difficulties here over the last several weeks with getting this thing to work reliably. I don't know that we've ever communicated, but for folks that are not in the audience here when these things happen, it really is a situation where the system will be working and then it will freeze up at random. And to everyone, I hope to everybody's relief, I did have someone in here. We had our technical crew come out and look at it last week. They do have some ideas on some changes to this setup that hopefully will streamline the system and make it a little bit more reliable. And I'm waiting on a quote for that. I'm gonna move on that pretty quickly, just because I know I get tired of rebooting it every time we have a meeting, but that was the reason for the delay today. So the second thing, I do want to recognize the clerk as well. You know, you've landed in the right workplace when your city clerk comes in dressed up like Princess Leia and starts giving more Star Wars lines to kick off the day than you. And so
And Josh gives a lot.
and I do, I certainly can, not to out myself here as a real Star Wars guy, but yeah, definitely up my alley. And I appreciate obviously Katie's passion, but just it is fun just for the office, and I think it adds a little bit of spirit. But and again, Katie, I do appreciate the collaborative relationship that we have and that we've been able to build, and that we operate in an environment where we can have a little fun but still get all of our work done on time. So thank you so much for all your help. Couple quick housekeeping items for folks. We are experiencing the usual seasonal spike in grass notices. So just a friendly reminder to the public, the height limit is 8 inches. So please, out of respect to your neighbors and in order to keep rodents and other critters at bay, do try to keep an eye on the grass. If you have or notice serious issues, please give the office a call. We'll have our folks go out and take a look at it. And then 2 quick admin items to touch on as far as recruitments. So the first is that I did kick off the recruitment process for our fire chief today with our consultants. Very excited about that. We are hoping that that will be a process that will result in a selection no later than 4 months from now. So we're trying to get somebody on board by the start of the 4th quarter. I feel like that's an ambitious but achievable target, and I'll be in touch with council and staff in the coming weeks about how that process will unfold. The HR manager position has been posted. I've received several applications for that as well. I'm looking forward to churning through those later on this week and early next. And the final point or update for everyone is that Clemens Nelson, who's our consultant on the classification compensation study, are nearing the end of their wage survey. We were only waiting on responses from one other community. I'm optimistic that data will come in, and at that point they can crunch their numbers and give us some firm recommendations. So full steam ahead on all cylinders here, and I couldn't be more excited about the direction that we're going on a lot of these fronts. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for the city manager? All right. Well, thank you for the update, Josh. And we will move along to public comment for agenda items. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on agenda items?
Forms there are not.
Okay. No forms turned in. Thank you. We will move along to old business.
Oh, showed up.
You missed it.
He looked like-
Ordinance number 23. Okay. That was good, Katie. All right. Congratulations. How are the minutes going to reflect that? Preposition. Anyway, we will move along to old business. Ordinance 23-0-826. This is the second reading, public hearing, potential adoption. Mr. Manager, could you just quickly tee this up for
Just-
those?
Yep, just
Might
very
wanna-
briefly, this is a series of changes to the development standards in the UDO that were recommended by Planning Commission.
Okay. So
Motion. Second.
we have a motion and a second. The clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 23-0826, an ordinance amending chapter 1109 zoning development standards of the Unified Development Ordinances of the City of Riverside, Ohio.
Okay. I will open the public hearing for ordinance 23-0-826 at 6:22 PM. If there's anyone here who wishes to comment on the ordinance, please state your name and address for the record at the podium, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Hearing no one and seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing at 6:23 PM. Is there any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Oh, yes, I will.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Agree, I do.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay. Do we get it all out or are we still? We're not there yet? Okay, boy.
The meeting
yeah.
minutes are gonna. become-
They are, that's what I'm saying, reading the meeting minutes. Who wrote this?
They're gonna be professional.
Yeah, I just got done reading about how professional the clerk is.
It's the clerk, not the council.
That's true. That's true. We will move on to the second ordinance. We'll have a second reading, a public hearing and potential adoption this evening. Ordinance 23-0-828. Mr. Manager, could you briefly update the purpose of this ordinance?
Yes, this is the ordinance that council's discussed over the last several months and weeks regarding salary changes for elected official positions commensurate with inflation.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Ms. Franklin. Madam Clerk, could you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 23-0828, an ordinance amending the annual salary for the mayor and council members of the city of Riverside, Ohio.
I will now open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment on ordinance 23-0-828 at 6:24 PM. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium and give your name and address for the record and keep your comments at 3 minutes. Hearing no one and seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing at 6:24 PM. Discussion items, any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Denning.
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin.
Yes.
Ms. Fry.
No.
Mr. Joseph.
No.
Ms. Lomach.
No.
Mr. Maxfield.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. We'll move along to new business and we have 4 resolutions. First resolution, resolution number 23-R-2842. Mr. Manager, could you quickly update us on what this would be?
Yep, this is more of a housekeeping resolution that allows us to close out the road improvement projects at Lynn Haven, Eastman and Meyer and assess back costs for curb gutter, sidewalk and related infrastructure.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Mr. Joseph. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2842 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the second resolution, Mr. Manager?
Second resolution, again, similar where periodically we will bring these forward where we've done grass vegetation, high grass abatements. This resolution authorizes us to go to collect those on the property tax bills and recover those costs.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second from the deputy mayor. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2843 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The third resolution, Mr. Manager?
Yes, third and fourth are substantially similar. So as we discussed at last work session or the one prior, these resolutions are the technical corrections to the CRA, the community reinvestment areas and the community that will clean up the language so that any multifamily property will be treated as residential, not as commercial. And that matches the changes that were most recently made to the other CRA as well.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass or to vote on resolution 23-R-2844. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And since we just got a clarification from the manager, is there a similar motion on
Motion.
the second? We have a motion and a second on resolution 23-R-2845. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving along the agenda, Madam Clerk, were there any forms turned in for public comment on non-agenda items? No, just no?
Forms, there were not.
Okay, thank you. And then we will move along to council member comments. And I'll start with Mr. Maxfield.
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
I'll mention it, but we're gonna have a lot more to talk about it at the next meeting, but it's Mental Health Awareness Month. All I'll say today is just if you've had a thought to go take a real deep look at your mental health, it's a good reminder. You don't need one, but this is a good month to be reflective, make sure that you're taking care not only of your physical health, because I know the weather's getting nicer, but also check in on your mental health. And if you know someone who you might think is going through a little bit of a tough time, check on them too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Zach. Nothing from me. I'll pass along to the deputy mayor.
Well, I was at MVRPC board meeting this morning and some very informative presentations were made. I passed information along about the water mitigation activities at the base for the region, for the water field. And consequently have asked that we might consider having that presentation brought to us from the base for our citizens to review it. A lot of really good screen presentations. It's a real ABC. It's not real technical and it's easy to understand. So I would like to think that we might schedule the base to come and give us the presentation to share with our
Be a
citizens.
good work session item.
Maybe later, even in the summer, closer to the fall, when we might get more people watching. Let's hope. It in our backyard. If you've wondered what's going on down there. And he said if the council's interested, certainly can set one up to tour that facility and see what's going on, because people ask me all the time, what are they doing over there? And I think this weekend's activity has brought more attention to it, but I don't know what they're doing exactly over there after all these years. And so Matt Joseph said if the council's interested in setting up a tour for the staff and the council, he'd be willing to do that for us. So if you'd like to share your thoughts with the city manager or the mayor, and we'll see you down the road, but there are ads now out on TV from lawyers saying if you live on or around Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, you might be able to whatever. So we're going to get more questions about our water, and it would be better to be better informed. Thank you. You're up.
Ms. Fry, I apologize. Zach and I were trying to figure out a map location on something.
Just want to report that last week, April and I attended the First Suburbs retreat. It was the first opportunity since I've been involved with First Suburbs to really reflect and look toward the future and figure out where we want the organization to go. It was a very productive meeting, and we will be formalizing our goals, intentions.
Our short and our long-term goals.
In the next meeting.
And did Jane Dockery facilitate that?
She did.
Wonderful.
She was wonderful.
Yeah, she's very, very good at that.
Mhm.
She was at Right Safe for a very long time at Coupa, what was used to be
She's
Coupa.
Yeah, I talked to our consultant about her for a very long time. I'd like for her to maybe do something.
She's kind of retired, but I think she still does retreats.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, she's fantastic and she grew up in Riverside or Mad River Township, but she grew up here. And Mr. Denning,
The only thing I have is tomorrow is my wife's birthday, so please text her, call her, hit her up on Facebook and remind her of her birthday. And I believe we will be having a group, putting a group together to go to Clancy's tomorrow evening. Usually we went to Salsa's, but they're not there anymore, so.
well, she's not just your wife, she's also the chair of the planning commission.
Well,
So she has a
that
and she's
too,
on the school
and
board.
She sits on the school board.
So she's
she
very,
was- she
very
was
involved in our
very
community.
involved in the community. So please, community, please.
And not yet
reach out to her
29.
and-
Hard to believe. She's not yet 29. It's hard to believe all the things that
Not-
she's doing.
Not quite the second time anyway.
Don't put that in the minutes. Strike all of this. You can have the Star Wars talk if you want, but not.
Can't talk about her age.
I can.
So Mr. Joseph just had a motion to adjourn at 6:32 and a second for Mr. Denning. All those in favor signify by saying aye.